Hi, I'm Joe Sweet. I'm with Lakeview Summerfest, and more on my story coming up.
We would like to thank M1063, WGLM, FM, M1063.com. West Michigan Technology and Design Solutions is your local source for managed IT, websites design and hosting. Check them out at WMTDS.com. At Business Growth Engine, Stephen and his team support businesses through automation and streamlined processes. Go to buildergrowthengine.com. DW Video transfers your home movies, slides, audio, and videotapes to digital. They produce and design websites, create business and social media videos, TV commercials, and family storytelling videos. Visit dwvideo.com to learn more.
Hello, and welcome to the Discover Montcalm Podcast. My name's Dwayne. I'm your host and producer. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, as well as on iHeart, Apple, and I can't remember the other one, but it'll be on the screen if you're catching the YouTube video. DiscoverMontcalmPodcast.com. Check out all of our episodes. We're well over, or maybe 140 by the time this airs, and there's just stories out there. So if you have a story about Montcalm County, let us know.
Welcome to the Discover Montcalm Podcast, where we are going to look at the communities, the businesses, the attractions, and the people that make up Montcalm County. Here is your podcast host, Dwayne Weed.
My guest today is Joe Sweet, and Joe... I found out that he lived right around the corner from my grandparents when I was growing up. My grandparents were over on Kendallville Road, and you were right there on the corner.
Yep. We were on, trying to remember that road. Satterley Road, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And, you know, we know a lot of the same
people.
A lot of the same people. We never met before this morning.
I do not believe so.
No, but it's kind of neat how the past kind of brings it all into the present.
It is.
Well, let's start with a fairly easy question here. You grew up in the Lakeview area.
Yes.
Could you tell me a little bit about growing up in this area and what you kind of liked about it?
Well, starting out, we were geared mostly to Coral, where we were at. The small towns were busy back then, and as I went to started school in Coral in third grade, then I went to Truffant School, and then from there it's been Lakeview on through graduation.
Okay, so you graduated.
Yep.
You graduated from Lakeview, and you grew up in the family business, so to speak. Yes. Did you come right out from high school right into that, or did you go out, spread your wings, and come back?
More or less stayed with it. I struck out on a couple things, and I always came back to playing in the dirt.
Playing in the dirt, you know, with big toys.
With bigger toys,
With bigger toys. It's always nice. You start out with a Tonka, and then you put a little, power behind it.
Yep.
So you've got your... you've always been community-minded.
Yes.
You've always grown up in this area. At what point, through your life did you start looking at volunteering and putting back into the community?
Actually, probably later on. Maybe about, I'm going to say 8 years ago. I actually got back into vans, which is my thing, not so much cars and trucks, but I've played with cars and trucks when I was younger. But a friend, Jim, was doing the car show at Lakeview with the radio station.
Yep.
And he handed it off to me one time because he had to go somewhere.
Right. And volunteer.
I volunteered right into that one. And I've made it grow. I mean, last year we had, we was averaging about 75 to 85 cars, and last year we hit a number of 128. And I'm hoping our young fellow Trenton that's doing it this year can keep it going.
So we're talking about the Lakeview Summerfest.
Summerfest on this one.
Lakeview Summerfest. And if somebody, I don't want to assume anything. I'm sure that you have a Lakeview Summerfest page, Facebook, social.
Oh, yeah, LakeviewFestivals.org. I've got, right now I changed it to Lakeview Pinup and Cruise In for a Facebook page.
Okay.
The Lakeview Festivals car show has got its own page yet somewhere.
Okay. Lakeview's got quite a bit going on over there for a small community.
They do.
But it takes the local businesses.
It takes all the local businesses to make it work.
People. It takes the people.
Yep.
So the Summerfest. What all is involved with the Summerfest? I mean, obviously you've talking about a car show.
Right.
But what can somebody expect? Is it a 2 or 3 day event?
It's basically 3 days. 2 days are hot and heavy, I guess. Saturday is our big finale day.
Okay.
But Thursday, Friday, and Saturday are all busy, and actually things kind of already started with the Miss Lakeview pageant, which was last weekend on the 8th or 9th. I can't remember. But anyway, that's kind of starts it, and then music in the park on Wednesday, and from there it rolls on. Thursday we have euchre and DJ, and
so it's fun for the whole family.
It's a good time for everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how long has the Summerfest been going on? You said you've been with it for about 8 years, which if we do the math, that was what, 2017-ish?
Yeah, somewhere in there. I'd say I think they might have had a dry spell at one time. It used to be the JCs, and then that got turned over to what we call the Festival Committee, which is it's about a dozen of us that have stuck with it, and we get a little bit of new blood once in a while. We could always use more people.
Volunteers welcome.
Volunteers are very welcome. Ideas take volunteers. We can't do everything.
Right.
And we run into that quite a bit.
Oh, I've been on my fair share, and it's like, you want us to do what with this people? Nah, I'm sorry. You've got to.
We've all got our hands full already.
Yeah. But, good ideas come with good people.
Right.
So the Summerfest, it's the one weekend, and it's in June.
That's June 21st. That's coming up real soon.
Well, I'm not sure when this podcast is going out. Is it like the second or third weekend?
It's usually the third Saturday of the month
of June. Okay,
yep.
So if you're catching this after the event, the third Saturday or weekend of June. And what's also nice is that you have your Facebook, your website, all of that stuff. So if you want to know what's going on, I'm sure the itinerary is on there and it gets updated as it
does. Yes.
And
because after Summerfest we'll have FallFest, and that's the first Saturday in October.
Okay.
And that's basically I want to say it's a kids-oriented day.
Okay.
Because it follows a Halloween theme and everything like that.
Oh, okay.
I do a little cruise in. They have the craft and vendor show. I mean, there's stuff for everybody, but it's a one-day.
It's a Saturday?
It's on a Saturday, and it's a one-day thing.
Okay. So just another way to bring the community.
Put people on the streets. That's the way
And, back in the day, farmers would come in on Friday to the local town, no matter what the town was.
Right.
And the ladies would do the shopping, and then the guy would tell stories. I'm sure there was no lies ever. I'm sure never.
No.
But you've got the Summerfest, you've got the Fall Fest, and Lakeview also does a Winter Fest.
Yep, we have
Can you tell me?
Christmas in Lakeview. That's another one-day deal, but same token, that's also fire. We have fireworks at that one.
Okay.
We usually do a $1,000 Visa gift card raffle.
Okay.
And there's a limited number of tickets, so you've got a 1 in 300, usually a 1 in 300 chance of winning $1,000.
Hey, not bad.
That's not bad odds.
No.
But the fireworks over the lake in the wintertime are just fantastic.
Well, fireworks are
always fantastic.
But it's nice. Plus in the wintertime, we haven't had many winters like I remember growing up. But, you get some good snow, you get a nice fire pit.
Yep.
People hanging around,
we
conversing.
do that. We do the fire pit thing. Matter of fact, that's usually my job.
Make sure it's stay lit and you
stoke
got,
it and
you got
fire
heat.
it. Yep.
What are some of the things that, what was the event called in the winter? Is it
just Christmas in Lakeview?
Christmas in Lakeview. What kind of events are happening that day?
That day is mostly just downtown sales and stuff like that. Like I say, we have a tree lighting ceremony. We
Okay.
usually do. I think there's a parade of sorts.
Sure.
It's lights and sirens and loud things,
Well,
and we run a little bit of. It's kind of a. You got food vendors, and we do a beer and wine tasting
okay.
for the adults for something to do while the kids are carving pumpkins,
Yeah.
which they can get right there.
Don't do the beer and wine tasting while you're carving.
No, the carving is
Safety
usually
first.
up to the children.
Safety first.
But the craft show is usually it's pretty good. Everything is weather related.
Well,
but
yeah, and out of all the things that you control, that is one thing you
one thing we
cannot.
can't. But for all these events, the village is going to be putting up a pavilion where the Kelsey Hospital used to be.
Oh, okay.
So they're gonna allow some of that lot to be converted into a multi-purpose space.
Okay.
Probably not as much as I'd like to see,
Well,
but we'll take what we can get. I don't live in the village, so I have no say on it anyway. So
Right.
But anyway,
but the fact that they're being forward thinking at all
yeah,
to take a space that, because when, if kind of moving things around here a little bit,
yeah,
that was a pretty big hit to the Lakeview community when that left.
Oh, it was huge.
And the fact that, the fact that they, people roll up their sleeves and, hey, let's get to work. What are we going to do?
Right.
How are we going to do this? Boom,
Right.
boom, boom.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see that.
Give some kudos to the village leaders there that keep going for grants and everything else that they can get their hands on to do things.
Maybe not of as big of a nature, but back when Frigidaire left and Electrolux left.
Yeah.
Frigidaire, Electrolux, Gibson, whatever the name was at the time. But it does affect the community, when something that you've been relying on leaves.
Yeah.
And the sign of leadership, but also the sign of just good community people stepping up, saying, okay, what are we going to do now? And the fact that, you're going to get a pavilion there that, hey, it could be used for every event you talked about,
Right.
plus so much more.
So much more is correct. Yep. So that, and if you look around, every small town has a pavilion.
Yes.
Lakeview did not have a pavilion. Well, not a real one. They had one at the park, but it's pretty small for a couple of picnic tables.
Okay. So it was due.
It was due.
It was due.
That's my opinion. I have to say that.
Well, and it's like, we all have those opinions.
Yeah.
But it's good that they're looking, and those types of things can be used for everything.
Yeah.
From family reunions to events,
more craft shows out of the weather.
Yeah.
Anything to get a roof over it. Everything's better with a roof over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's so. As we're wrapping this up here, we've talked a lot about the different festivals. And what
Right.
was the website again for the
It's
festivals?
LakeviewFestivals.org.
Okay. If you can go there and you can get all the information.
We'll
You keep
have
it up to date.
each thing will be itemized or listed separate with links. There will be applications for vendors and craft shows, all kinds. Anything that's associated with what we do
Sure.
will be there.
And volunteers are always welcome.
Volunteers are
Yeah.
always welcome.
Let's get more people in to kind of lessen the load, and you
Yep.
can do more.
Right. We
you
could
can do more.
We could. There's a lot that could be done now that I think in the past used to be done,
Right.
and I don't think it's there anymore.
Yeah.
Well,
there's change.
This year we won't have a carnival.
Okay.
That's a whole nother issue.
Okay.
But it's
Now we're
it's-
going
it's
back to the Summerfest.
Summerfest. Yep, Summerfest. But it's not because we didn't try.
Okay.
It's because they're very hard to book, and our space keeps changing.
Oh.
What's one of the things where the multi-purpose space would be
Would come in
good,
handy.
would come in handy. Yeah, but we'll see how that ends up in the long run.
Well,
We had a lot of postage stamp size lots that the village let us use,
Okay.
But that kind of busts things up,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't centralize anything.
Right.
Where what's going to happen now would be more centralized.
Okay.
to me.
So, hey, Lakeview, a growing community, one that's been vibrant, and a lot of people doing a lot of good things, which you can say about almost any community here
Yes.
in this county. But it's kind of neat, and I don't know if you guys had your fingers in it, but didn't they also have a fishing tournament this past year?
Oh yeah, we had our fingers in that as far as supplying refreshments.
That was an international festival.
It was an international World Ice Fishing Championship.
Okay, in little old Lakeview of all
in
places.
Little Lakeview, and it was cold and it was fun at the same time. And that was another fire pit episode on that one.
Well, you got to keep people warm.
Yep.
And fortunately, the winter was good enough at that point that
we had
the
ice
was thick enough, and you were able to do it.
That has been something in the past where we cannot plan much for the winter, because especially in February.
Okay.
Lately, February is iffy on ice, and it did well.
Yeah.
Well.
This was not in alliance with any other event. This was just something.
No, this is not. We didn't even really organize it. It was, I think Lane Lepic there with the Lions Club. He was the one that brought it to our attention mostly, and he did a lot of stuff himself along with the tournament people, because they house themselves in Grand Rapids and bust up here every day.
Okay.
I mean, it was quite involved, and you had, I don't know, a bunch of different countries, which was pretty cool in itself too. You just don't get that, and we might not get it again.
Well,
not to that extent.
But the thing of it is it did happen.
It did happen.
It did happen, and there was fun to be had.
Yep.
I was watching things on socials of what was going on and this and that, and different live feeds that people were putting up, and I went, good for Lakeview.
Yeah.
Good for Montcalm County, because
Yeah.
It's just good that those kind of things can happen in a small town.
Yep.
As I wrap up here, is there anything that we haven't touched on that you'd like to? I mean, we talked about quite a bit here, but
yeah, really, like I say, I'm geared right now. I'm focused on Summerfest. I'm working with props. One of the other committee members, Michaela, she's working with me on the pinup decorations and stuff like that. Trenton Marks is doing the car show. Chad and Dom are running full tilt on refreshment, hospitality tent, I call it.
Yep.
And Vicky is running the Friday Southside Street Party.
Okay.
Down on the south end of town, which she managed to bring it in. I scratched my head for a couple of years trying to figure out how to bring people from the south end, the businesses on the south end, into this thing.
Right.
But they're on the south side of the tracks, so to say.
Well,
and that's just the way a lot of these towns are.
But it's all about community.
Excuse me. And she did well. She's done well.
Okay. One last question. You've grown up here. Why should someone discover Montcalm County, in your opinion?
Well, for one thing, years ago it was lakes. We have a lot of water in Montcalm County.
We sure do.
And like I say, things have changed over the years, of course. The small towns, I think, some of them have had an unfortunate luck to run their course, but some of us are still hanging in there.
Yes.
And we keep it going. And there's a lot of, I don't know, culture. There's a lot of culture that you don't see. Well, you grew up with it. We had Danes and Finns and Celts and Germans.
And one thing that I've noticed in
It's kind
Montcalm
of funny.
County is that there's newer festivals happening.
Yes.
The Hippie Fest and this and that.
Yes,
and,
yeah. There's been some younger people who brought some stuff in.
And it's bringing more people into Trufant, to Howard City, to, we've got Burley Park over here, and every community has something.
Right.
And I think that in itself is a great reason to discover, Montcalm
County.
But once again, the website for the festival?
LakeviewFestivals.org. or we can find a bunch of spots on Lakeview Festivals on Facebook.
Just do a search.
Yeah, you'll find all kinds of things.
Just Lakeview Michigan Festivals.
Lakeview Michigan 48850, because do not get us confused with Lakeview and Battle Creek.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you're watching the news and school closings. You got to look really close to make sure
we got the right one.
Which one it is. Yep. So, Joe, thank you so much for coming in today and bringing us up to date on basically a lot of things happening in Lakeview.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. My name's Dwayne, the host and producer. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, as well as discovermontcalmpodcast.com. Go grab the RSS feed. You can find us on iHeart, Apple, and Pandora. There we go. I knew there was another one out there. But, catch the podcast. Give us feedback. Let us know what you want to hear. Or if you have lived here, give me a shout. I'd love to find out a little more on the history. And, but you can do that by getting in touch with me at Dwayne, D-U-A-N-E, at dwvideo.com. So thank you so much for tuning in today. And remember to buy and shop locally.
Connect and follow the Discover Montcalm podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Check out all our episodes at discovermontcalmpodcast.com. We look forward to featuring your business, community, nonprofit, events, and more. Contact Dwayne at 231-250-9624, 231-250-9624. Thank you for tuning in and following the Discover Montcalm podcast.